Hello and welcome to the Data Engineering Podcast, the show about modern data management. Data lakes are notoriously complex. For data engineers who battle to build and scale high-quality data workflows on the data lake, Starburst is an end-to-end data lakehouse platform built on Trino, the query engine Apache Iceberg was designed for. Starburst has complete support for all table formats including Apache Iceberg, Hive, and Delta Lake. And Starburst is trusted by teams of all sizes, including Comcast and DoorDash. Want to see Starburst in action? Go to dataengineeringpodcast.com/starburst today and get $500 in credits to try Starburst Galaxy, the easiest and fastest way to get started using Trino. Your host is Tobias Macey, and today I'm interviewing Praveen Gujar about product management for data and analytical platforms. So Praveen, can you start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, thanks first of all for inviting me to the session. My name is Praveen Gujar. I currently work as a director of product at LinkedIn, but my journey in product management has been for a decade plus right now. Especially after my MBA, I started with Amazon in a product management capacity, worked in Amazon Web Services, specifically building a lot of the early generations of AWS or public cloud products as well. Then I joined Twitter, where I basically played a very critical role for a short duration, though, on moving some of the on-premise workload that Twitter had to public cloud. Later on, for the last 7 years, close to now, I've been with LinkedIn. At LinkedIn, I've played multiple roles, specifically building data platforms and products, and also digital advertising. So, in summary, my experience spans across data products, obviously, building data products and platforms, digital advertising, AI, and cloud as well. So, a lot of different experience, and in the process, basically have built multi-billion-dollar businesses for these organizations as well. Fortunately, I have been part of big tech company, have seen these internal operations very closely as well. So yeah, that's my introduction in short.
And do you remember how you first got started working in the data space?
Yeah, as I said, I started with Amazon after my MBA, but I do have an engineering degree where I was a developer before as well. Transitioned into product management role after my MBA. I first started with Amazon Web Services, as I said, where we built a lot of the early public cloud products as well. My area of expertise was building EC2 instances that are a lot more focused towards storage optimized and IO optimized instances. And these really were instances that were predominantly catering to the needs of our workloads, such as Redshift, for example, Amazon's Redshift, or data warehouses, as well as in-memory workloads like SAP HANA and other things as well. So a lot of analytics product data warehouses, data lakes that were basically coming up during that time. We built specifically storage optimized and IO optimized instances at that time. So that's really how I got into the data product and platform space as well. I worked in that space for about, in AWS for about 5 years. Then again, continued a very similar trend with Twitter as well, where we negotiated contract with some of the biggest public cloud providers to move Twitter's workload to public cloud. Ended up moving their couple of the Hadoop clusters to cloud as well. And last but not the least, continued the same trend within LinkedIn as well. Was one of the early PMs who started data products and platforms division within LinkedIn. As LinkedIn started to become larger organization as well, we clearly saw a need to have a specific product management team leading data products and platforms. So there I built a portfolio of platforms and products as well. My current work is a little bit different than just data products and platforms, but I still very closely associated with enterprise grade data products in the digital advertising space, specifically catering to the needs of large customers, like maybe a media agency, big brands as well.
Product management, as it is commonly thought of for people in the engineering space, is largely focused on those end-user features where a product in that case is maybe a website or a specific feature of a website. Obviously, for organizations like LinkedIn, Twitter, Amazon, data is a huge component of that functionality, and I'm wondering if you can give some comparison between the typical view of product management and product management as it exists in this view of being very data-oriented and working very closely with the data teams.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I mentor multiple product management aspirants as well, and most of them really carry this view that product managers build UI experiences for customers or build apps for customers alone. But you have product managers that are of varied experiences and background, and they build different kind of products as well. If I can loosely talk about three specific product types of product managers, one I would say is a consumer product manager who build the end apps like the DoorDash app, for example, or the Airbnb app as well. Second is B2B product managers who build B2B specific products. It can be a mixture of data products as well as user-facing UI experience as well for large, like for another organization. These are the B2B product managers. And the third one basically is product managers who build data products and platforms in general for both internal and external use cases for organizations. So these are three loose categories. But if you take a step back, every organizations, when they basically scale, they clearly see a need for building in-house data platforms and products as well. Few things that really matters the most for them. Data, obviously, as we say, it's been old saying now already that data is the new oil. So data definitely is a clear mode for a lot of these organizations as well. So making sure that the data is clean, reliable, and compliant with regulatory guidelines and everything is very key for these organizations as well. Second one is scale, the massive amount of scale that this organization has. That means it introduces a lot of complexity into the data ecosystem. So it's critical to basically build for longer term platforms or products. Third, I think understanding data flow within the ecosystem is very, very key to build every single product and features at the scale of these larger organizations as well. Hence, investing in data platforms and products in-house becomes very important because off-the-shelf or fully managed services do not often provide the flexibility, the customization needed to meet the needs of these larger organizations as well. So where does product manager come in? So you can imagine now that you are pretty much building data products and platform for your entire organizations. It may be 10,000 plus people or 15 or even 100K plus people, depending upon how big the organization is. And you need, in a spoke and hub connection, you need a hub kind of a personality or a function that really enables these teams to come together, work on a common vision, solve the complex problem in a good way, because you basically are now interacting with engineers, AI engineers, backend engineers or infra engineers, as well as data scientists and other folks as well. So how can you bring everyone together under a common vision becomes important. That's where really product managers play a role. So I was speaking to someone in Stripe. Stripe has historically not had product managers in this particular space, but they clearly have seen need for having product managers in the space in the last 3 to 4 years, and they are building a product manager organization for data platform and products as well, where you can clearly demonstrate results from having a function like this.
For cases where you are working on determining what features to provide during the product ideation phase, because of the fact that in very data-oriented products and capabilities, the data that you have becomes a limiting factor, I'm wondering if you can talk through some of the tensions that exist in the process of figuring out if this is something that you would like to do, and then doing some of that feasibility analysis and deciding what is a reasonable amount of investment to put into enabling this feature versus the proposed gain that you're going to get from the amount of engagement you're trying to drive with it, especially in the case where either you don't have that data yet or making that data available in a very high availability, low latency use case is going to require a significant technical investment.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question as well. Some of the like I think as an organization, you really go back and forth in making these decisions as well. And if you are, there are both cultural and organizational aspects that are necessary to make this happen, and also there are technical aspects that are necessary to happen. Let's first talk about the organizational aspects first to begin with, and then we can talk about the technical aspects as well. First and foremost, I think large organizations like this have to structure their internal workings to enable teams to build for these large data products and platforms as well. That can be as simple as having organization structure, for example, a CTO organization that completely manages the infra, the data platforms necessary as well, is very key to the thing. Then basically comes the cultural aspects as well, rolling out the culture that is necessary for these teams to actually use the data platform and products that are built in this thing as well. For that, you need to demonstrate value because no team basically will just adapt to a data product or platform if unless it delivers on the similar value that you have talked about. It has basically serves the use cases, meets the complexity requirement and the performance requirement, be it latency, throughput, or anything else as well. So it's equally important to basically demonstrate the value, but culturally activating these teams to use these data platform products or some kind of a mandate also becomes very clear as well. So these are definitely organization and cultural challenge that the organization has to go through to ensure the data platform and products are first built. They are solving key use cases or problems for the internal customers, and third, they are actually used by these internal customers as well. The second piece is very interesting question as well. When you talk about the feasibility of building these data products, the data availability, or anything else, it's a very complex questions as well. I often see this as a three circular Venn diagrams as well, where the user needs or the business needs basically play a very critical role as well. How strategically aligned some of the capabilities that we have to build for business needs is very important. The second basically is obviously what you talked about, the technological feasibility that includes availability of the data, available technology to meet the performance requirements, for example, is very critical as well. Third, basically, is what is the leverage that we are creating by building these capabilities as well. I think very initially we talked about what is the minimum capability that you can build that produces the highest leverage opportunity. That is very key as well. So thinking at this intersection is very important as well, and ruthlessly prioritizing is key. And some of this basically may also, you may have to create requirements for other teams that may not be something that you immediately control or work with as well. It can be building data pipelines. It can be basically upgrading your software infrastructure to make sure that we have performance, both in terms of latency and throughput, can be managed as well. That's a very key thing as well. Like if you take an example of today, like AI is definitely acting as a catalyst for a lot of these capabilities as well. Organizations are rushing into upgrading their infrastructure and capabilities to ensure we go through the massive inflow of data that is expected because of AI related products and features. And in addition to that, like what is needed to train these models as well. So for these, for an organization to be successful, you need to really think 5 years, 10 years ahead and be committed to invest in these because at this scale, you cannot steer a ship in 6 months or 1 year. So really planning for the future and working towards it very important.
To that point of the significant investment, both in terms of engineering capacity and financial input to that engineering headcount to be able to support these features and the time horizons that you're looking towards, the fact that you're trying to build these systems in a way that they can be used in an interactive capacity by a large number of users, you ideally don't want to have to create individual point solutions every single time you want to create a new feature. And so I'm wondering how you think about that congregation or grouping of the types of features in terms of the technical platforms that are going to be required to support them so that you can try to build those technical capabilities in a way that they can be used across a wide number of potential use cases, both now and into the future.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So platformization is kind of both tabooed and can be both tabooed and also overused term within organizations as well. Everyone wants to build a platform, but people are also really have a negative reaction to the platform because they suck up a lot of time in building, and we often tend to overdo platformization as well. So finding a really a good balance is very key as well. What is the right amount of platformization that provides some maximum leverage? So that's a very critical component of it. The second piece of the puzzle also is really doing extensive research across multiple teams as well to understand what are the common capabilities that are necessary that can be platformized as well to provide the maximum leverage. I think this goes back to the point of right amount of platformization as well. You want to provide common set of capabilities packaged together through an API, but you also want to provide ability for these teams to customize that on top of the platform as well. So that modularity, that customization capability is very key, important piece of the puzzle as well. So I think that's really where having that these two criteria is very important as well. Then the third piece of the puzzle also is uh, clearly in a lot of these bigger organizations, you have two different types of platforms as well. One is a product platform, one is a tech platform as well. So there is need to build these two capabilities very clearly because they serve different use cases as well and often have overlaps as well. So for example, a product platform can be a messaging platform that can be used by multiple teams to build messaging capabilities as well. A common set of capabilities that it provides that can be customized by other teams as well. Whereas a tech platform can be an experimentation platform as well that can be used by both B2B organizations as well as B2C organizations as well to run experimentation as well. So building these two different platforms, you need to make sure that you invest in these two different platforms as well. And also, as I said before, like really looking at the long term, you should have a longer term roadmap, like 5 to 10 years, to really understand like how do you evolve this platform as well. All the technology changes every few years as well. Having that vision is very important as well. And as soon as there are critical milestones in technology, you need to make sure that you need to work on these platforms, customer like evolution of these platforms and products very clearly as well. So hence, yeah, I think to your question, longer term vision is very important. Having a tops down approach is very important as well. Making sure that you build the right amount of platformization and not fall to the trap of over platformization is important as well. And about all these things, going back to my earlier response as well, having an organization structure and culture is very important, where top down execs kind of mandate sometimes as well in investment in these and making these hard decisions are important. I think in many organizations, there will be a time where every 5 years or 7 years, where you have to see that my infrastructure, my platform and product capabilities are now getting obsoleted. So I need to deliberately invest next couple of years, for example, to overhaul all of them to set myself for another 5 to 7 years. This is key aspect of it. Many of the organizations that I have worked on have deliberately made this a priority organization wide. Otherwise, it simply cannot done. You cease to exist.
To your point of the technology moving fast, the requirements constantly changing, the advent of AI being a widespread phenomenon has definitely changed the usage and load patterns on these technical systems. A substantial amount of early investment in data platforms and data capabilities was oriented around the data warehouse and supporting business intelligence use cases. We've now moved beyond that largely to these real-time systems being able to do things like embedded analytics, data products for end users. That has substantially changed the types of technologies that we need to be able to support those use cases while also maintaining the analytical capacity of the warehouse and business intelligence. I'm wondering if you can talk to some of the ways that you see technical teams breaking down the categories of functionality into consumable chunks so that they can figure out how to build these new technologies or bring in new platforms or components to be able to support these growing use cases and the increased demands on the capabilities of those data platforms to be able to operate in a higher capacity and lower latency format.
This is an awesome question as well. I think specifically as you described, right, this needs a very methodical and deliberate approach as well. And this is really where the product management function plays a very critical role as well. I think that we recently went through something very similar. So I'm going to basically lay over the framework and what this was actually did as well. It all really starts from working backwards from the customers as well. When I was at Amazon, we used to have this like customer obsession story, right? Like working backwards from customers, various organizations, especially big organizations, follow different kind of a methodology or framework to eventually achieve this goal. Like working backward from customers, how can I ensure that we build the right product as well? So one such framework that can be used is jobs to be done as well. So jobs to be done is a framework that basically enables you to first map all the key jobs or all the key problems that your customers wants to solve, be it internal or external. And with that as a foundation, now you can actually build upon it to understand how do they solve this problem and how can we build capabilities both in platforms and products to solve this problem as well. So I think a simple exercise that teams like this can actually do is to begin with map all the jobs to be done. You start with certain key capabilities or key problems that your customers want to solve. It can be basically like what you talked about, real-time analytics that should be available as well, a massive amount of data that can be used to try and train the AI models as well, and your infrastructure that basically to support lower latency and higher performance to train these models as well. And specifically, if you work in an ecosystem like arts ecosystem, where real-time nature is very critical as well to make bidding decisions, to make serving decisions, how do you basically leverage the upcoming technologies to increasingly reduce the latency in making these decisions as well? Becomes a very key. So you map all these capabilities as jobs to be done framework as well. Then what you start doing is writing user stories or customer personas and user stories basically to represent these jobs to be done as well. A simple thing would be if my user wants to run in product, like a embedded analytics basically with my listing. These are the journey that we'll actually go through as well. So you come up with a few user stories to that, and then each user stories you start mapping what are the capabilities I need to build to achieve these or fulfill these use cases as well. In those capabilities, what you'll also see is a clear trend of similar capabilities that are needed by multiple such user stories and multiple such persona as well. That's really the cue for you to build platforms for those meeting those capabilities as well. These personas may be different, these use cases may be different as well, but those commonalities in the user story start emerging. So you map those commonalities and capabilities, the common capabilities to come up with a platform as well. Now you have jobs to be done or jobs that you have user stories, and now you've collated common capabilities, and the remaining capabilities that we have to build can be the products that are built on top of these capabilities as well. Now this exercise gives you a huge metrics that tells your organizations what platforms are either necessary or missing in our portfolio, what platforms basically needs to be upgraded to meet the demand of the next few years as well, and what products should be customized or built on top of these platforms as well to make sure we serve the needs of our internal customers and also the end consumers who eventually will see the benefit of these as well. So this is really a elaborate exercise that sometimes can take you months to really go through. And again, I cannot emphasize the fact that how critical it is to have a culture like this and the top-down buy-in like this to really have this kind of an approach. And only then you can actually fully understand your technology, tech portfolio, and the missing gaps in it and what is needed to really overhaul it for the next few years. That's really the TLDR version of how organizations go about this.
In your experience of working in this space of technical product management around these very data-focused features, I'm wondering if there is an example of a product, either specifically or a general category of product, that you can talk through the overall journey from this is the goal that we're trying to achieve through the process of figuring out how to break that down into those technical components and the custom technologies that you've had to build to help people understand all the different stages of the life cycle and the types of organizational involvement that you have to bring in to be able to bring that type of project to a successful conclusion.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Let's take an example of experimentation as well. So if you are a large organization, you you're always experimenting on new capabilities and features as well, whether it's in a user-facing app or whether it's a B2B app that you're building for your customers as well. You're constantly experimenting on look and feel, on models that basically optimize either your notification or your the feed that you basically see as well. These are constant experimentation as well. No one sees a common experience. It's basically a custom experience that is determined by experimentations as well. So there can so how and you can now think about how these experimentations can be serving different platforms, different capabilities and different applications within your organizations as well. So this becomes a very classic use case to actually build a platform for to begin with as well. Now the question basically comes in: you have experimentation capabilities. What are it should basically encompass it as well? What is that platform definition as well? So the way we have seen some of these to play out is what are the fundamental things that you need to basically do experimentation as well. So one, you need the ability to understand and target the customers as well. Like when you're LinkedIn or when you're Amazon, you have billions of customers or billions of users that make purchases or decisions on your platform on every single day as well. So you need ability to basically segment these customers, and you need ability to basically run experiments across these different segments as well. So you need targeting capability to begin with, right? So then basically is ability to basically move through the targeting segments as well. This becomes a very key aspects. For example, what do we mean by that, right? So let's simplify. If you have 1 million users, you want to start a feature sometimes only with 1% of the population exposed to it as well, where your critical thing is to first evaluate what is the risk of launching this feature as well. You're trying to understand, is it breaking an existing experience? Is it causing a negative reaction to certain segment of the population as well? So you randomly select 1% of the population and introduce this segment as well. But you won't get typically statistical signal data at this point, but you're trying to really evaluate what is the risk of launching the feature as well. Then you basically go up to 50% to understand, like, is this feature really delivering the value as well? Your goal is to first mitigate risk and then go to the 50% to evaluate whether the feature is delivering on the capability that we wanted to deliver and the value it is delivering as well. And then if everything looks good, if there is statistical signal that this feature adds the value, then you go to basically 100% ramp and everyone seeing those features as well. And now this is a complex process which needs to be managed by the experimentation platform as well. So ramping process is very key. And along with that is the A/B test capabilities that are necessary as well. So that at every percentage ramp, you're trying to evaluate different things. So at some point, you're trying to evaluate the risk. At second point, you're trying to evaluate the value addition measured by statistical signals as well. So that's the key thing. So you now have three requirements already within your experimentation platform: ability to target, ability to ramp, and ability to experiment or A/B test as well. Now, not every functions or every capabilities can be experimented as well. Different teams will have are A/B tested as well. Different teams will have different needs. So how can they use this basic platform to build additional capabilities? So a data science team that is working with, say, a B2B product can then come and say, I will use the same basic capabilities, but now I'm doing, because my products don't get, I cannot A/B test on my products. I will use observational inference methodology. That is a longer term test for 6 months to 1 year. And I can basically build on this platform as well. So that's really how you make decisions. First, understand, like, what are the common functions that every single team actually need, build those common capabilities. And on top of it, like, you enable certain APIs and capabilities so that the other teams can take that last mile approach and build solutions for their custom needs as well. And that's really how we think about platforms and how the platform enables common set of capabilities that can then be used by other teams to build for their specific needs.
In your work of acting in this product management role, bringing requests to the engineering teams, trying to figure out where your goals fit in their overall priorities and capacity, I'm wondering if you could talk to some of the challenges and tensions that exist in that relationship and some of the ways that you think about how to engage with the engineering side of the requirements and work with them to build the capacity that's required and understand how to build a kind of synergistic relationship that they're building something that they're interested in and that they want to support rather than just building something because they've been told to and they have to.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So first and foremost, gone are the days where anyone in any team basically builds whatever they are told to, unless like it's really clear top-down mandate as well. And this is really one of the biggest thing that I talk to upcoming product managers as well, how they have to be inspirational to the teams, how to have to set the common vision and inspire the team to basically build towards that common vision as well. It's not an easy job for a product manager to begin with. There are a couple of things that play a very critical role. Completing priorities will always be there. You have always have very smaller resources or like or challenged resources wise. So competing priorities play a very critical role as well. The clarity in thinking, vision, and is very important as well. And especially when you basically work in a longer term platform roles, you need to ensure that milestones are critical as well. So you deliver on certain milestones to ensure that there is continuous motivation for the team. There is a sense of accomplishment, wins for the team as well. So I think we have to admit that we all live in a world of instant gratification as well, and building platforms and products are not easy because it takes years sometimes to really see the meaningful results. So really breaking it down into milestones is very, very key to motivate the team to continue to work on it as well. So all these things are basic necessity that the product manager has to do, like inspire the team with a common vision, have a detailed roadmap, have clear milestones that are delivered on a regular basis to keep the team motivated. These are very important as well. Without this, like you're not even basically getting started with any kind of a platform product itself. Now comes the challenging part of how to convince basically the team on specific capabilities and other things as well. So to begin with, the distinction of building common platform capabilities, like the bare minimum to this thing, is very key as well. This is where a lot of the tension really lies. If a product manager is trying to basically build a X capability within a platform, you have to make a very compelling case to the engineering team as well, and why this is going to give the leverage that the platform is originally intended to do it as well. It can be you like simple things like how many teams can basically use these capabilities. What is the net impact on business basically because of these capabilities play a very critical role. So leverage and business impact you need to really demonstrate as well. Then basically tying it to the milestones as well. If these capabilities take multiple years to basically build, how can you actually break it down into smaller capabilities, evaluate the impact it's basically delivering, and only then build on future milestones is very critical as well. You need to have that clarity within yourself first to convince your engineering team that this is the right thing to do as well. And this is really where having a good, strong relationship with the engineering team really plays a critical role. I often say to people that I actually mentor that there is no better relationship than an engineering and a product manager relationship. The stronger your bond is, the easier it is for you to do your job, and also easier for you to basically have these kinds of an alignment in a more seamless manner as well. And again, I'm not saying that you can get away with anything as well. That build that trust and that relationship with your engineering partner, the primary partner that you have, is built by years of experience by doing the right things for customers, for product, for the team, and everyone around it as well, right? So this is really where I think finally you need to have that strong relationship to make sure that a lot of the tough decisions are made. If nothing else works, there should be an escalation channel that should be put in place as well, that you should be agreed upon priorly. And if we do not align on these things to be done, and it happens much more often than we think about, that the escalation channel basically helps you to make faster decision, so you're not really going back and forth for weeks or months sometimes as well, so that you can actually make a decision. And last but not the least, you need to make sure that in this escalation, there is very good clarity to the decision makers as well, if this is a one-way street or a two-way street, right? For example, what do we mean by that, right? Certain decisions are one-way decisions. That means it can significantly change and there is no undoing it as well. For example, the experimentation that I talked about, if you are thinking about building a platform that supports targeting, ramping, and experimentation, it's a significant decision. And if you build those capabilities for the next 1 plus 2 years, and you cannot go back from those decisions, you can technically go back, but there's a waste of last 2 years. Or a two-way decision is something like that can be undone with minimal damage as well. And for those things, you need to make faster decisions as well. And really, in this escalation, making sure that that clarity is provided. That again really anchors on the product manager doing his or her job to ensure that you can actually deliver this escalation message very clearly and get out of a decision as well. So very, yeah, I think the org dynamics is very complicated, but really end of the day, the product manager has to step up and deliver on these things to make sure these conflicts are resolved more amicably.
In that case of building that relationship with the engineering team and engineering management, you're also working on the other side with the business and sales side. And one of the oldest tropes in engineering is that salespeople will sell something that you haven't built yet. And so I'm wondering some of the ways that you have, in your experience, been an ally to the engineering team to help advocate for their needs with the business and sales side of the house, and some of the ways that you act as that kind of peacekeeper between the two sides of the organization.
I think if I get a penny for every time I do this, I would probably be super rich by now. Is really the right way to begin this. I think it's a very good observation, and I think it's pretty much an industry-wide challenge that we actually face as well. The persons have a very difficult challenge of demanding customers. They are they do one of the toughest job. I consider dealing with people as one of the toughest jobs and building technology products in this thing. And again, an engineer will probably completely disagree with me, but like people come in all flavor and they have own challenges as well. So salespersons basically have to make on the fly decisions sometimes to promise something that may be difficult to get it done as well. And that often comes back as a heavy business push as well. That's really where product manager basically comes into a critical plays a very critical role as well. One, I think having an open communication channel within your sales counterpart and your engineering counterpart is key to the needs as well. Like trying to understand each other is very important. So that's number one. Second one, often like what comes as build me a Taj Mahal kind of a request can be broken down into smaller entities that can actually be delivered in a shorter time frame, and that basically can keep both the salespeople and the customers happy as well. That's just a very common thing that you can actually overlook as a product manager if you don't really dig into the details of what is being asked as well. You have to remember that sometimes customers may not know what they need. Sometimes salespeople misinterpret what as well. So really digging into the detail, there is no substitute to talk to the customers directly as well. So that's the third piece of the puzzle as well. Understand the customer problem really, really deeply, and then basically whatever is asked for. And the last piece of the puzzle really is like having a backbone to say no is important to sales cycle or to the business as well. Despite doing all these efforts, certain promises are something that you may not be able to deliver on, or maybe you're just technologically not ready at this point, or this may not be in the best interest of your business, for example. So, product manager plays a very critical role in having a backbone and saying no and going through the necessary escalations to basically resolve this is very important as well. So now you're playing a two critical role. One, you're really trying to understand the salespeople's intention behind it and the customer intention behind it as well. And also you're trying to basically translate that into what is feasible from an engineering side. And when things you see that this is not in the best interest of either the team or the product or the business, then having a backbone to push back is equally important. So you're shielding the engineering team from an unnecessary churn as well. So I think, yeah, this is where really product manager plays a role. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of the organizations are seeing that there is a need for a product management function in data products and platforms as well, because these are complex decisions that you have to make on a day-to-day basis sometimes, and also make sure that both the different go-to-market teams and the R&D teams are in sync and you really form a bridge between them.
In your experience of working in this space of technical product management and working in the data space and with very data heavy products, what are some of the most interesting or unexpected or challenging lessons that you've learned in the process?
Yeah, I think the leverage of platform is unimaginable sometimes, to be honest, as well. Because you actually, irrespective of how much of a research you actually do, and to collect what are the common capabilities we need to build, when you really build a platform and expose it to your customers, both internal or externals, the amount of creativity they can actually do to build on top of the platform is amazing as well. So I'll give you a very specific example without diving too much into the details at this point. But think about compliance and regulations at this point. It's really a common theme everywhere. Bigger organizations are putting in privacy regulations. Bigger government organizations are introducing compliance rules and regulations as well. To name a few, GDPR, CCPA, and there are upcoming on AI models as well, C2PA and everything, that are very critical for organizations to meet those requirements as well. And often sometimes like when these kind of regulations come, that's when the platforms that you are actually built can be really useful as well. So I talked about I worked on this platform called Data Hub, which is now an open source product as well. At the crux of it, basically what this is a metadata management platform which enables you to understand effectively the data flow within your ecosystem as well by building lineages between data sets and exposing APIs that can actually be used to understand these relationships within data as well. So we built this platform, and that's when GDPR came into picture as well. The first of all, understanding of our data ecosystem really helped us to meet the compliantry needs of GDPR as well. But it's not a one-time done activity, right? You have to constantly monitor if there are any compliance violations that actually happens as well. That's why one of the team basically built an application called Compliance Monitoring Solution on top of it. At the crux of it is pretty simple. Built on this data management platform, every time there used to be new regulations, we used to introduce a script to basically ensure that all the regulations needs are actually met by leveraging or building on this type of a platform. So if there is any potential violation, for example, an individual X was working in team Y and had access to a data set, and now that individual moved from team Y to team Z, and technically having still continue to have access to the data set can be a compliance violation as well. In that case, basically, how do you identify and revoke access or ask the individuals to give up access is a critical thing as well. And this is how the team basically used the data hub or a metadata management platform to build solutions on top of it. Because now you're bringing in all the data together in your ecosystem, understanding it. So now you're better able to build these kinds of applications. So that's why I say platforms surprise you quite a bit and what kind of applications can be built on top of it. And there are plenty of such examples in my own experience as well, where the teams even surprised or even customers even surprised what you're basically leveraging what you're basically built.
Obviously, there are major benefits to be had with having a product management capacity in this data ecosystem. I'm wondering if there are any examples of cases where either the organization is too small or the focus is not sufficient, where it doesn't matter having a specific product management role for a given organization or a given team.
Yeah, I think definitely. So if you think about product management functions, but even keep it aside, the product management function, right? Why do you build in-house data platform and products rather than basically using off-the-shelf solutions? It's because you have unique needs. It can be the complexity of the data ecosystem that you actually have. It can be the scale of the data ecosystem that you actually have as well, or the customization that you need, or ever-changing business needs that are important for you to basically have a better control about it. And last but not the least, the compliance as well. Some of these larger organizations can be in severe trouble if there is a compliance violation as well. For example, GDPR famously mandated 6% of overall global revenue as well. That's a huge chunk for larger organizations as well. So it's worth every penny to build their own in-house solutions as well to ensure that you have better understanding about how you're being compliant and have better control over it as well. So there are way too many reasons why large organizations should basically build as well. But if you're a small startup, at this point, or if you're smaller organizations as well, you don't have these complexity, these scales, these requirements as a whole as well. This is really where you have to make more judicious decision about integrating with the fully managed services, or if leveraging open source platforms too for your needs is a critical thing as well, rather than building in-house a lot of these capabilities and this thing. And but as you grow, really making very deliberate choices about investing in some of these products and capabilities as well. Earlier, I alluded every organization looks back in 5 to 7 years timeline to see, do I have to significantly overhaul some of these capabilities as well? And if you are a startup, you have gone through some of these decision makings, you know that at some point you run into a junction. Like we are very aware of the blue whale story of Twitter as well, how they went from a monolithic to microservice architecture. Similarly, every such junction you need to evaluate if this is the time for you to basically build capabilities in house and set yourself for the next 5 to 10 years of growth, or you basically cease to exist in certain cases if you don't do that as well. There are multiple instances where organizations basically stitched together with different capabilities that they actually had but did not invest properly, and couldn't really these systems and capabilities couldn't manage the scale. A lot of this has changed with public cloud right now, with fully managed services as well. So there are organizations that are very effective in not having such large data product and this thing as well, but still manage the business. But when it comes to the cost of loss and flexibility, expenses sometimes as well. So it's just really the trade-off that you have to do. These kinds of organizations, maybe Netflix is probably case in point here, tend to be run very, very lean. So they manage their in that infrastructure from fully managed services and augment it with certain capabilities. So it's really, there is no one size for fits all kind of a story here, but for certain scale there is clearly no substitute for building some of these capabilities. But that's not for everyone for sure.
As you continue to work on investing in product capabilities, leveling up the engineering teams to be more engaged with the organization and motivated to support the functionalities, I'm wondering if there are any aspects of the data ecosystem and the way that you think about the engineering work as being product focused, or the ways that you think about being a product manager in this ecosystem, if there's any specific advice for people who are looking to get more involved there, or things that you're thinking about trying to help promote and encouraging people to do.
Yeah, again, I think this is a great question. A lot of what basically people that I mentor who want to be in the product management role understand as well. So I don't really understand and ask this question as well. I think, to be honest, like product management is a more like really sought out role these, especially these days. Especially like I get a lot of requests from MBA students who used to earlier before management consultant and are investment banking. They now really want to be a product manager in big tech companies, specifically the Silicon Valley. And a lot of them don't really understand these nuances as well. So specifically for a product manager who is really want to break into the space, I think I would say certain things are very important. Number one would be that you have to have a technical background to some sort. Can you be successful in this space without technical background? You can be, but that basically means you need to ramp up those skills, because these are technically heavy products, and without technical capabilities, you won't first have the respect of your engineering team. Second, you won't build meaningful products. Third, you won't be successful as a product manager. So technical skills basically is very important. That's number one. Number two basically is some of these products are don't deliver the instant gratification as well. Hard to measure the impact sometimes as well. And these are challenges that you should basically be fully aware of. That actually comes with a whole set of other challenges as well. So people are motivated by incentives. So how do you keep your team motivated when you have a product that has been working on for 3 years, for example, right? A platform that you're building for 3+ years. So really having those milestone-based approaches showing that in milestones and motivating the team is very critical as well. And for yourself as well as a product manager, to make sure that you don't chase after instant gratification, but you're really trying to build for the next 5 years is very critical as well. That I will say is very hard to basically come to terms with to begin with, because we are now often seek instant gratification as well. And last but not the least, I think there should be a passion to solve some of these complex problems as well. I would say this basically trumps everything, to be honest. Some of these space are increasingly difficult space to lead as a product manager. So you need to have a passion to solve these complex problems, get up every day to basically solve this problem for your customers, for your business, for your team. And that's very important. So these are three skills are really, these three things I would say very important for a upcoming product manager in the data platform and product space to be very aware of.
Are there any other aspects of product management in the data ecosystem, your specific experience in that role, or the technical capabilities required to support these end-user facing features that we didn't discuss yet that you'd like to cover before we close out the show?
I think if you are a product manager without technical background, there are plenty of capable courses that are now already available as well. And even if you are basically a product manager with a lot of background, as I said, the technology world is very dynamic. You have to basically continue to refresh yourself. I myself am going through much more detailed AI courses as well, to a level basically I can code and build my own models as well, right? Like really understanding, going to the depth is very important as a product manager. One, to basically understand the challenges of your engineering team. Number two, basically, is to be in sync with the technology trends as well. So I would say it's very important for you to basically do that. So I think my parting kind of an advice would be to really understand the technology, go to the depth of understanding it, live a life of an engineer, for example, to be successful product manager in this capacity particularly.
All right. Well, for anybody who wants to get in touch with you and follow along with the work that you're doing, I'll have you add your preferred contact information to the show notes. And as the final question, I'd like to get your perspective on what you see as being the biggest gap in the tooling or technology that's available for data management today.
Yeah, I think this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, with specifically the advent of GAI in the last few years. We are looking at astronomical pace of innovation that is powered by AI in the next few futures as well. Every organization is basically investing in some other capacity as well. That basically introduces a whole set of challenge related to data, related to tool, to make sure that these AI foundational models, number one, is available to everyone. They can be basically used in the right manner as well. And any RAG-based approach that you actually use to augment these models, you have the right data that is readily available, can train these models and go live as well. You have the necessary infrastructure to experiment with these models as well. These are all the keys that basically there are certain of these areas still have the capabilities, but they are not really upgraded to a level that a pace of innovation needs at this point. And I would say a lot of the organizations are really thinking about this, how to basically upgrade their infrastructure, their own tooling, their own capacity to really cater to the needs of AI and the innovation that is now following.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time today to join me and share your experience working in this role of product management for data systems. It's definitely a very interesting position. It's one that is continuing to evolve and change, particularly as the expectations around capabilities for these different end user products are evolving, along with the technology landscape. So it's great to have your perspective and your advice for people who are working in this space or working with somebody who's in that space. So thank you again for taking the time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. And thanks for having me in the session as well. It was great to basically share some of my experience as well. And looking forward to other things as well.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to check out our other shows. Podcast.net covers the Python language, its community, and the innovative ways it is being used. And the AI Engineering Podcast is your guide to the fast-moving world of building AI systems. Visit the site to subscribe to the show, sign up for the mailing list, and read the show notes. And if you've learned something or tried out a project from the show, then tell us about it. Email hosts at dataengineeringpodcast.com with your story.
And to help other people find the show, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends and coworkers.